Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, my name is Byron Stauffer. I guess in this, I'm the Executive Director of the Indiana County Office of Planning and Development, but also the Indiana County Development Corporation. And in that capacity, not only the ICDC, but the county, all of our CEO partners were working to deliver economic development projects around the county to market Indiana County is a great place to do business. So over the last 10 years or so, we've been doing some, new business park developments. Back in the 90s, we started out down at the corporate campus on 22 and 119, and we kind of leaped over and started developing the Windy Ridge Park. And about the same time, the Indiana County Development Corporation, with the assistance of some state and federal funding, developed back in about 2010 or so, 2011 ICDC bought, if you remember, the 119 North project, came through 22, as I mentioned earlier this morning, east-west, then 119 North. And when PennDOT did the widening of 119 from the 22 interchange up to Homer City, created the 4-lane, there was a new traffic light that was installed at Luciusboro Road. And there was a hillside right across from the villages of Coral and Grayston on the hill. There was some undermining there back in the day, and fill material was taken off of that site and utilized to elevate the highway, as it's pretty good shell material. And so we had a couple flat terraces there. So we were able to get some grant funding and borrowed some funds, and we developed a 27-acre business park. We did that work from 2011 to 2015. And then in 2015, a company called US Trinity came from Texas, Oklahoma area, and was here until this past summer when their lease was up in July. And company, they built the Mariner East 2 pipeline that went from from Evansburg to down on 22. I'm drawing a blank. But about 58 miles of pipeway along the pipeline, along the natural gas pipeline along the 22 corridor. And so this was their base of operation along that corridor. During their time, they had over $100 million payroll, hired a lot of union contractors to put in a lot of infrastructure, during that time. A few years ago, we continued to market knowing that lease was going to be up, and we continued to market the site. And we came across a company called Grupo Energy Future. And the gentleman's name that it's the CEO, his name's Luca Siriugo, from Sicily, moved to New York 6-7 years ago. And back in Sicily, he's an engineer and developed a process for anaerobic digestion, utilizing cow manure and having a byproduct using the methane, capturing the methane, and putting that into the marketplace. So we're here today to talk about what ended up being a development in partnership with Grupo Energy Future, is partnering with a company, Air Liquide Advanced Technologies US LLC, I believe. And Nathan Fryer is plant manager, is here today. He's going to talk to you about some of the technical specifications. So through some negotiations, the ICDC sold the property, lot 2. So after we built the internal access roads and utilities to the site, we had lot 2 there, and Air Liquide now is the owner of that site. and they're in the process of developing it for this biogas project. What I wanted to basically leave you with before I hand it over to Nathan, we did do some community outreach here this late summer. Working with the residents of Coral and the Grayston areas. Air Liquide did a presentation during the course of negotiations. This is, I think Nathan will go through some of the technical pieces of it, but we believe that this will be able to coexist, with the closed loop system, and capturing and a lot of our covenants, our design guidelines and such. The air quality permit that they've secured from the DEP, that we're going to have a good corporate citizen operating, in the 119 corridor in Center Township. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Nathan, and at the end, we'll take questions. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nathan Fryer. Been with Air Liquide for going on 8 years now. Just a little bit of background. I started in the Poconos, so eastern side of Pennsylvania, and the Air Liquide Advanced materials sector, where we made specialty gases for the semiconductor industry. I had the opportunity to move back home, so I'm local. I grew up in Apollo, moved back to Apollo. Once I got that opportunity, I jumped on it to come open up a digester in Pennsylvania. We're going to cover a few topics today. What is RNG? Anaerobic digestion, project benefits, and a few videos. As you can see, Air Liquide is in multiple industries across the globe. We have 67,000 employees, and we're present in 73 countries. We have locations in Pennsylvania and other states. Here, as a civic-minded company, Air Liquide strives to ensure that everything it does is in the interest of its stakeholders, so employees, customers, patients, as well as the community. We always drive for safety, sustainable development, and to decarbonize the community. So on the right-hand side, you can see the 119 Business Park, and on the left-hand side, that is Airgas. So we recently purchased them a couple years ago, and their headquarters is in Radnor, Pennsylvania, with over 1,600 employees. So it's not just Air Liquide, it's Airgas as well. That's local in the community. So produced from biogas, we can create the decomposition of organic waste or biomass, including agricultural and household waste, through a process called anaerobic digestion. Composed of primarily methane and carbon dioxide. RNG is also biomethane, so renewable natural gas is what RNG stands for. It's identical to the conventional natural gas and can be used in the same ways. Air Liquide plant collects biogas, purifies it with membrane systems into RNG, and will inject it directly into the Grayston Coral natural gas pipeline. And you can see that's on the right-hand side. Here's some of our plants. What we currently do is we work with landfills, and we collect all the methane that comes off the landfill. We'll then purify it and inject it into a natural gas pipeline. And this will be our first digester in Pennsylvania. We have some in Europe, and this is just listing our landfill operations. So we have Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Wisconsin, and we're planning on developing more digesters across the US. I'm going to show you a quick video. How the sound will work. Oh. All right. Yeah, I apologize. I'll start it back over, and you can read it.
Yeah.
Just gotta keep going. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop the video since we don't have any sound. We'll talk, I guess, a little bit. As you can see in there, there's some pictures of digesters like the one that was just shown on screen. The digester actually has a big dome on the top. It's a flexible membrane. That's where we actually are going to capture the gas from dairy manure. There are other states. There's other avenues of collecting food waste and wastewater to do the same thing. After it's purified, like I said, it's going to be injected right into natural gas pipeline. I'll continue on with the slides. All right, so here are some of the companies that we are working with. You can see Grupo EF that Byron already spoke about a little bit. The pipeline that we are injecting the RNG into is going to be with People's Gas. We have a local hauling company, Hawkins Trucking, out of Lower Barrel. We're going to be working with Shadco for the pipeline for our interconnect on the Grayson Coral Sportsman's Club. Howard Concrete helped with the mine remediation. RNL is helping us with all of our grading work. Bolt is going to be our mechanical contractors, and Ohio Valley Concrete with our concrete for the digesters. Here's the fun part. On the left-hand side, you can see a cow. That's where the whole process starts. So as the cows defecate, we will collect it. It all goes into a manure pit. And in that manure pit, what we're doing in a digester is already happening. So we are going to reduce emissions by collecting the manure and trucking it to our digester. There will be process for roughly 34 days at 110 degrees Fahrenheit. In that process, it will kill all the bacteria and pathogens and will separate it out at the end. When we separate it, there will be a liquid stream and a solid stream. The solid stream will be screened and dried so it can be returned back to the dairy farms and used as bedding for the cattle. The liquid will also be returned back to the farms, and that's going to be used as fertilizer on the fields, just like it is today. On the biogas side, once it makes it through the digester, we have RNG. But it's not RNG until it goes to the upgrading process. An upgrading process will use a membrane technology to separate the CO2 and the methane. And we'll bump it up to pipeline pressure and then inject it into people's natural gas pipeline. It can then be used for fuel. It can be used to power cars, and there's a bunch of offtakes that would be able to use that gas. Here you can see the flexible membrane roof on the left-hand side. That allows us to maintain pressure inside the digester. And it's a completely closed system, so nothing gets out. If anything is escaping out of the digester, that means we are losing efficiency and we're losing gas. So we do not want that. On the right-hand side are input tanks, or I like to call them buffer tanks. This is where we're going to load the liquid and the solid manure together and mix it through a chopper pump and push it into the digester. Again, it's got a closed roof on it, so no smells, no gases will be released. So air quality. The facility will capture the methane, which would otherwise be vented to the atmosphere and turn into a useful product. Again, RNG. Methane is 80 times more volatile than in the atmosphere than CO2 in a short-term basis. Development. The new operational site for local renewable energy production Trucking will require several drivers and over 6,800 man hours spent during construction to date. And we expect the number to increase, which it is every day. With that, we have some community benefits. We're planning on putting together a community advisory panel and offering a scholarship, Indiana County Fair sponsorship, and collaborating with IUP to create an internship opportunities. So whenever the liquid goes back to the farm, there's an odor and emissions reduction. The odor is broken down in the digester from staying there at temp for the entire duration, where we break down all the carbon components. So what that means, low odor. I carry a bucket in the back of my truck to be able to show the farmers. Once you open it up, there is absolutely no smell. If anything, it smells like leaves they kicked around out in the woods. We also will reduce the volume of manure at farms, and it only will stay there for about 3 days before we collect it. So this is a cost-effective solution for expensive conventional waste treatment. And there's a savings for the manure management and a fertilizer and bedding cost for the farmers. It's revenue generating opportunity for farmers to receive cash payments for the value they help to create through the RNG sales. And we're currently working with Turner's Milk to obtain additional incentives for participating farms by sustainably farming. With that, there's a pathogen reduction. Penn State has shown 95% reduction in the digested solids versus fresh manure. The local authority or local laboratories will set up a weekly monitoring program of the digested solids to ensure that we remain in spec and we do not deliver contaminated solids. So here's kind of a breakdown of what happens inside the digester. So we start with organic material, food waste, dairy, manure, and then it goes down to hydrolysis. It's a breakdown of complex organic material such as starch, fat, proteins, carbons. And then we head into the next step, which is most commonly known as fermentation, just like they would make alcohol essentially, which converts the simple organic material into ethanol, volatile fatty acids or VFAs, and fats. Next, we're going to have ethanol, VFAs, and fats are converted into acetates, hydrogen and carbon dioxide. And then the bacteria converts the acetate, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide into methane and more carbon dioxide. This is a simple breakdown of kind of how the process will work for the biogas upgrading unit. So we take the raw biogas feed from the digester and we have initial compression, which will push it through the biological H2S removal. And what this is just caustic soda. We're using bacteria to scavenge the H2S out instead of using harmful chemicals. It then goes into activated carbon to further remove all the possible H2S that's in it. We then have to have additional compression to push it through our membranes, which I'll show you here in a second. There's also one on the top of the screen. And once it goes through there, that's where we remove the CO2. Eventually, we're going to try to add a way to capture the CO2 and purify that as well. Then there's product compression. This bumps it up to the pipeline pressure that is going to be injected into people's natural gas pipeline. I do apologize if the videos are not working, but this is a very interesting video. If anyone wants to see it, I could email it to you. So, any questions? So that will all get.
Testing. Janice's question was, what do you do with the biological waste?
The biological waste will get put right back into the digester, and it's actually sulfur. So the sulfur goes back into the digester, and then it'll get spread on the fields. It's what the farmers add to the soil today.
Any other waste streams?
CO2 and the sulfur from the biological waste are the only two waste streams other than manure going back to the Right now, we are not going to take any waste. I believe there is a bill for the LCFS program in Pennsylvania, and that will allow us to take other sources of waste if it's approved. Yeah, so Byron said, talk about the carbon credits, and what we do is everything is based off a LCFS program. So low carbon footprint standard. And what we do with that is when we make natural gas or RNG, for every MMBTU that we put into the pipeline, we can get an offset credit. That credit then can be sold to California, Washington as a green credit. Correct. Right now, we're only doing dairy manure that goes into a pit because that is what's emitting the emissions.
The CO2 on the waste stream, is that supposed to be done or just released in the atmosphere?
So right now it will be released and we have provisions to further capture that and hopefully refine it and be able to sell it.
Do you have any other questions? I would like to see if we can figure out this video, but if not, I'll make sure that we blast it out to our emails. And I'd also love if we're able to put it on our website for people to see potentially. We'll talk.
Yeah.
Here, where was the? Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to do this. Byron, do you have any other comments that you'd like to make today?
No, other than, the partnership with Air Liquide, it's been great. I think that they're, again, trying to get out into the community and meet folks and meet we have to meet with the school districts and then meet with the community and IUP and others. So we're doing those kind of things, but certainly the meet opportunities. The other benefit that I think, in talking with the county commissioners, is, having a project that I know I've mentioned this, commissioners, when we're fighting some of the regulatory environments and depending on which side you're on, it's even hard to do natural gas projects, in this regulatory environment. Obviously losing the Overseas Power Plant and the jobs that go along with that, both direct and indirect. Our coal mining activities, Marcellus Shale, what Indiana County, has based its economy on for generations, a lot of those industries are in transition one way or the other. And, but to be able to stay in an energy sector and to have a project benefit our agricultural community in a sustainable way really starts to tie things together. And so we are, directly, indirectly improving the environment, creating some job opportunities, both direct and indirect, and and helping the environment all at the same time. And again, our farmers, are being able to monetize what is, really a liability relative to manure management and those kinds of attributes. So it really brings together a lot of key factors that, as the economy continues to transition and having these carbon credits and having the current regulatory environment, it's just a good project to explore. And Air Liquide is, 100-plus-year-old company, tens and tens of thousands of employees around the world. And I'm dealt with people from France on this project, Guadeloupe, our friend in Guadeloupe, Houston, Florida, Delaware, Monroeville, it's just all over the place. And, we have a $30 to $50 million investment in downtown Coral Grayston area. So appreciate their partnership. I know that they'll get more and more engaged as time passes on. But continue to follow it. I know this project will continue to be carried in the press and look forward to their long-term partnership.
We have two is that a question over there or? Okay, we have two, last questions. We'll have to use kind of.
Yeah, I'm curious, do you pay the farmer for the manure or do they pay you to have it all the way?
We not only pay them for their manure, but we also upgrade their farms and install bedding shelters, manure pits, and concrete slabs for roll-off containers. So there are tons of benefits for the farmer.
Are you working with the Amish?
We are not currently working with the Amish. We welcome with open arms if there's anyone that would qualify that we would talk with.
I'm wondering if there are any numbers attached to the benefits that you're talking about, to the farmers or to the community, and how many people are going to employ, things like that.
So right now, we're still working on some of those details. I know everyone would love some numbers. As we get closer to operations, we'll have a better understanding of that, and I'm sure we'll work with Byron.
Part of the issue, Tina, on that is I've actually been pressing this question. We knew going into this, you know, even though we're talking about cow manure, I mean, agriculture is very technical. You know, this plant's very technical. You know, you're dealing with gases and everything, but he'll be able to run this plant, you know, from his laptop, you know, and so it doesn't take a lot of direct jobs, but the ancillary benefit to the farmers, both in cash payments and also the fact that they're getting back, you know, so they're also having cost avoidance, you know, with and getting the nutrient management. So there's a cyclical process to this. The trucking aspect of this project will evolve as more and more farms come on. There's still additional capacity to the Amish question to not all the farms. I think some farmers, maybe some in the room, but generally very conservative in the decision making and their approach. So kind of want to see how it goes. And I'm very hopeful and optimistic that as farmers benefit by this project, and more farmers will want to be part of it. And so those numbers will change as more farms come on board and, you know, the numbers of farms and the logistics. So we're also tracking, you know, Nathan mentioned some of the companies. There's going to be a whole host of other, you know, one pad. These tanks are 120 feet, some of them across. So, you know, one foundation of one tank took 55 truckloads of concrete. Okay. And when that goes vertical, it'll take, I think there's going to be that many more. And so it's going to be close to 900,000 truckloads of concrete alone. So we're going to track everything and have an economic impact at the end of the project.
All right, we have two last questions. We'll have to answer them and ask them real quickly. So then we have to move on to our next speaker.
Is there a cost per kilowatt hour that once this is up and running that you're able to use? And how many megawatts would that, how many megawatts and how many homes would that serve?
So we're not producing the RNG for electricity, we're producing it for the natural gas.
Yes, as a comparison.
I don't have that off the top of my head, I apologize.
What kind of wastewater are you extracting what from?
So currently, the wastewater in the digester is going back to the farm. So we won't have any per se wastewater, it's going to be fertilizer. We will be trucking quite a bit of water back and forth from the farm. And there will be some just rainwater that will get collected that will have a little bit of manure in it. And we're going to use an oil water separator, recycle that water just like a car wash would. But really the NPDS permit and the conservation district is going to help us decide some of that.
So would there be any?
And the sewage authority.
Extracting anything from sewage treatment plants?
Excuse me, say that one more time.
Would there be any advantage of extracting anything from sewage treatment plants?
So I believe that would be a completely separate project, but I do know that they've used the same technology for sewage treatment plants.
We will be coordinating with the sewage treatment facility. So when they do truck tire So to keep the streets clean, they're gonna be washing the trucks. And that water will be collected, separated. And I know the authority will take some of that water and process it. But in terms of human waste, again, that's a whole different project.
All right, thank you again to Byron Stauffer and Nathan Fryer for this wonderful presentation.